Sup, homies? My name is Mike S, and today I'll be showing you the OG Legend of Zelda made from a Ralph loop. Well, technically 4 Ralph loops. So I'm going to get right into it. Today, right now in your browser and in the details below, you will be able to go to the legendofralph.xyz and play with the demo. Now, what makes this interesting, now you won't be able to do it inside on an iPhone, but you will be able to do it on a desktop. And what makes this super interesting is the exact process and the technology that allowed me to leverage AI to create the original OG Zelda in TypeScript. So first things first, this is Ralph Wiggum. It's a GitHub project created by Jeffrey Huntley. And it really made a ton of waves recently at the end of 2025 and here into 2026. And what he describes Ralph as is an autonomous AI agent loop that runs AI coding tools. And in my case, Claude Code, but configure it out of the box for AMP. So I want to run real quick on the webpage, legendofralph.xyz. There's a story section, and I'll just give you some of the data. If anybody has any questions, I'll leave them in the comments or share your experiences with Ralph. But effectively, this was 4 prompts. The game, 120 screens, 2 dungeons, bunch of items, swords, all of that was done with 4 prompts. The first one was simple. Produce a PRD JSON that, after completion, will produce all the tickets necessary to build the original Legend of Zelda for the NES. And so that first loop was about 2 or 3 iterations. And when I ran it, it took that prompt and effectively created all the tickets that, when finished, would create the Legend of Zelda. All told, that first loop executed in 2 iterations, produced 40 tickets. So then we had a second prd.json, which I ran through a Ralph loop. Now that loop, that second Ralph loop, took a while. Took between 6 and 8 hours. But when it was finished, we had all the framework necessary to run the TypeScript game. We had 120 screens, though only 11% were filled out. We had 1 full dungeon, items. We had a lot of the let's say the nuts and bolts necessary to build out the game. So from there, I repeated the same process as I did for the first 2 loops. I basically said, okay, you have I produce another prd.json in a loop that, when completed, will fill out all 120 screens, a second dungeon, and more, and make the world more lively. So that was kind of the point of the third and fourth loop. And then the net effect of all of these 4 loops were, and I summarize it here, 4 prompts. It was about 66 iterations. That second set to fill out the world map, that was, I think, 23 user tickets. So to do the first one was 40. The second one, was 22 iterations, 22 tickets. And ultimately, we got 120 screens and 2 dungeons. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what it created now, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. All right, homies. So here's the game, Legend of Zelda, TypeScript NES clone. And I'll go ahead and select my character or my save data, hit enter. And of course, this first screen is very familiar. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. I remember when I booted it up after the first set of loops, I was like, the frick? It captured that screen. Now, of course, in the original, you have to walk in there. In this game, you start as the character. Now, here's another thing that was so cool. Actually, I'm probably going to be saying that a lot because it was just so interesting. Remember, I didn't provide any instruction. I just said, first of all, create all the tickets necessary that when complete, will build the game. But I gave no instruction on how the game works. So that first set of 40 tickets that were produced, much of what you're seeing right now was created in that first loop. And then I can walk you guys around the HUD here in a second. Let me kill this enemy. Kill the second enemy. And then this is the first dungeon. Again, this dungeon was also produced in the first, after the first loop. You can see you've got your map. A lot of this does look identical to the original. There's a heart. I better get it. I didn't get it in time. But let's go through the first dungeon because I thought the dungeon was neat. And just broadly, like playing this, having been a Zelda fan my whole life, just the experience of playing let's say another version, like a ROM hack, but just completely generated. So like, one of these enemies could drop a fairy. There's like at every moment when I was playing through it the first time, because remember, I had 4 prompts total, but at first it was just 2. Produced all the tickets that, when completed, will beat the game, and then implement what was created in that first Ralph loop. And so that experience, I died. And that experience of, wait, what exactly does the agent think should be in Zelda? Almost no interference by me. Everything was produced. And of course, that included stuff like key drops, which is of course native to the original game and something you would expect if you played OG Zelda games. And we can get through our first locked door right here. Of course, the scroll is a little annoying. And then this is right next to the first boss. Why don't we go ahead and check out that first boss? Because I thought that was an interesting experience. Again, this demo is available right now. So if you want to play around with all that's here, feel free to do so. Let's just get him. Oh yeah, and like for example, when you have full hearts in the original Zelda game, you're able to get the projectile. Of course, they have map drops, and it was interesting because after the first loop, they described this dungeon as an eagle, which of course is the shape of the map. And then here's the first boss fight. It is one of the more hilarious representations of the first boss in Zelda, but actually the way the boss moves, its projectiles, where it's positioned, all of that is virtually identical to the game. And you see that was a heart piece, which happens after you get the first boss. It increases your heart count, which again, very, very similar to the original. And then after the first boss, you get the Triforce. So all told, just the joy of being able to see what exactly it was that the agent created, playing through Zelda like in a different way. It just really got my head spinning like, wow, the possibility here is just incredible. So what's up, homies? So I thought we could go through some of the specifics in the code. So I shared the GitHub. It's in the description. It's on the website. But in effect, how Ralph works is you need to download the repo or clone it. And then you import ralph.sh into the project that you want to build. You type prd.json. That's the set of user tickets that you want to loop on. Then you put the tool you're using. In my case, it would be Claude. And then the number of iterations. So I forget how many tickets are in here, but you want to have more iterations than you have tickets. So let's just say 10, and then it'll start. And so then Ralph will just start building through, just going through each user ticket inside the user story, rather, inside the prd.json, and it'll go until it completes. Or you run out of tokens, which could happen. Let's take a look at the prd.json now. So I thought we can go through the last prd.json that I ran through. So you'll see the prd will have a general description at the top, and then we'll go through what the tickets look like. But in this case, it's a content expansion. This would have been the fourth and final loop, the one that actually filled out much of the world. And then this is the interesting part, or I guess, like I said, there's a configuration at the top, and then you'll have the user stories. So like I said, there were 22 tickets in this content expansion, and you can see that each will have a title. In this case, create biome palette data module, which is to fill out like the environments in the game. At first, there was just, let's say, a forest, but then later, after that fourth loop, it had deserts, things of that nature. And so you can see this is another key piece, key value pair. It's called passes. This is part of the state machine that Ralph leverages to complete out all the tickets. It's basically going through all these tickets, and as it completes a ticket, it'll update this key value pair to false. Often there'll be acceptance criteria. This is how Ralph is able to decipher if it indeed completed a ticket and can mark passes to true. And of course, passes normally is to false, but in this case, I had already completed this loop. And one thing that will happen if you use Ralph loops is you'll use a lot of tokens. And so if you run out of tokens while you're on an iteration, let's say iteration 33 or iteration 19 or whatever it might be, you'll want to make sure you have this progress.txt file, because this is how Ralph keeps track of what it's completed. In addition to that key value pair, this is also necessary. So if it were to ever stop, if the agentic loop would ever close out, you could restart and finish off your Ralph loop. So to close, I thought we would go through the highlights tab on the page because it's pretty cool. You guys saw during the demo that it's dangerous to go alone scene, which was recreated. Of course, this guy, this representation of the old man, appears a few times. It has shops in the AI-generated game. You can see this scene, buy something, will ya? And of course, the items weren't properly filled out, though I believe they had the correct names, like in the code. But a lot of what I noticed, and this is what I wanted to talk about in part for the closing, I think to do this right, to actually recreate OG Zelda in more than just 4 prompts, or maybe in 4 prompts, but completely, you'd have to give it some sprites. You'd have to have those handy. Now, I haven't mentioned this, but that sprite kit that you see in my game, that comes from GitHub. There's an Oracle of Seasons, which was a Game Boy game. There's a set of sprites, and I loaded that in. It didn't come out beautiful by any means, but after the first build, that second Ralph loop, when it implemented the 40 tickets, everything were like squares or rectangles. So all the enemies, including and also Link, were just represented by squares and rectangles. So to do this right, if you were wanting to pursue this, there's a game you always wanted to play, or there's a version of a game that you would like to see, you would want to have on hand the necessary sprites, the necessary environments from a UI perspective, such that you could create it. And so here's that boss encounter. You guys saw it in the demo. There's the original from the game and what was recreated by the agent. And of course, we saw the user menu. So all in all, it was, it was such a mind-blowing experience. I'm so happy I went through it. And I'm super curious what you guys would build, what you guys think about this. Please check out the website, legendofzelda.xyz. I stream on Twitch daily. Please come by and kick it. I'm always working on some cool software engineering stuff. I cover trending topics in AI or business here on the channel. So be sure to give me a subscribe, and I'll see you homies soon. Peace.